Segment 2, Gold and Black Live. Craig Terrell joins us, a man that needs no introduction, but I'll introduce him anyway. And that's, of course, Craig was a starting defensive tackle, redshirt freshman, I believe, on the 2000 Rose Bowl team. He's also a former Gold and Black intern, which I know is the highlight of his professional career already. Played in the NFL, lives in Lebanon, and we're going to use this as a great opportunity to get caught up. And heck, this could have just been a regular phone call between the three of us because it's been a while. Anyway, Craig, welcome to the show, and we are glad to have you. And I want to get us up to date. Give us the elevator, maybe a 10-floor elevator speech of what is new and different in Craig Terrell's life, from family life, job. What's going on?
For sure. Yeah. I spent the first part of my life chasing quarterbacks, and now I just chase my kids around. That's that's the best 10,000-foot view of everything. So, and there are much more difficult to deal with than any quarterback I ever had to deal with in my entire career, college and professional. So, but I have 3 girls and a beautiful wife, and raising girls is an awesome adventure. I grew up in a house of all boys, so and locker rooms my whole life. So
yeah,
I learn something new every day.
Yeah. What in terms of what are you doing professionally? I know you've done some training stuff. What all is up with that outside of the full-time job of being a dad and being with the girls?
Yeah, I've kind of had a cool opportunity just to be at home with my girls. So my wife's a professor, and she was awesome for me throughout my playing career and supportive of me. So now she's a writer and a professor and a speaker, so I kind of get to be the stay-at-home dad, which I'm perfectly happy with.
Yeah, outstanding. Brian, go ahead.
Let's go back in time here a little bit, Craig. What was the worst thing we made you do when you were an intern for us?
Man, I've blocked out so much of it. Years of therapy, have worked hard to block out that. It was such a cool opportunity for me. And if I've never thanked you guys, I want to thank you now. But I didn't know. I grew up on a farm and doing construction, and then I played football. So I had to have no clue what would go into working even for any business. So It was an eye opener for me, and a life education right there. But I know I was a terrible typer, so I'm sure anything you asked me to do, or I had to type anything in, you probably looked at me like, "Oh my gosh, he's still doing this."
So all those times I told you to go dig holes in the front and fill them back in, that didn't scar you at all?
No, that's typical football work right there.
Yeah. I do remember. I was going to say, I remember Terrell's Take, because you did write for the magazine, and we are still in the same offices. I'm literally recording from there today. That we were right when we first moved in was when you were working with us, I think, in 2002. So, from that experience, you were always timely. You were always friendly. You were always quiet, but very capable. So I gave you all these great recommendations. I know the Seahawks, man, they were all over what, I had at least 10, 15 interviews with them. Just kidding. But you were good from that standpoint. And you were what we expected, what we saw in the field, we saw in terms of work ethic, because you just got it done. So that was a good thing. And I also remember one of our photo shoots with you and Tom Campbell that we did the lunch pail thing with you. And I remember having to go down to downtown Lafayette to at some knickknack store to borrow the lunch pail. I think I returned it. I'm not 100% sure, but
still have it. I know you still have it.
What do you, just that mantra of being that type of player. I mean, that's what you were. You brought it to work every day, and there wasn't a lot of fanfare, but that seems to me that was kind of the way you were raised and growing up in Lebanon, Indiana. But tell us about that.
Yeah, and I think my Seahawk teammates found that lunch pail picture pretty fast.
That internet's a damn thing.
That popped up in the locker room really fast, and but it goes back to how I was raised, and the family I was raised in, and they were all farmers and worked in construction, and it was just it was blue collar family through and through. So I always tried to bring that aspect of football, and football is a physical blue collar game. So I think guys that embrace that can succeed. I was not biggest, fastest by any means, but I felt like I could outwork anybody.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of redefined the term lunch bucket for me, because as a sports writer, sometimes you have to learn to suppress your laughter when your inner monologue triggers inside jokes. And every time Mark Hagan would talk about you, he'd always mention lunch bucket. And I just thought it was the funniest thing ever. And so that's kind of your legacy with me in terms of training me to be a sports writer. But that's just kind of what you always were. Did you ever actually carry a lunch bucket anywhere? I don't know if anybody actually does that.
That's a good question. I'm sure I brought my lunch pail to school every day, but that was always the common insult in my high school days of, if you're physically going to test somebody, is, well, you better bring your lunch pail with you.
Yeah. I think Joe Tiller used that term too, just constantly in his later years, about whenever we'd ask about you. Take us back to your recruitment, because you committed early, not as early as they do now, but I do remember we had an issue of what the heck was the name of our we had a print Golden Black Future, GBI Future. You were our first cover person, I think, on that when you committed. Brian, I think, did the story. But tell us about how that came about. And you were obviously played both defense. I think you played both defensive and offensive lines at Lebanon. But tell me about what went on in your recruitment.
Yeah, what you brought up there was a big part of it. A lot of colleges wanted me to play offense. Purdue, Joe and Brock and those guys were one of the only, larger schools that were saying, yeah, you can play defense. Now I have no clue if they were lying to my face. You can be a defensive end. Sure. You can rush the quarterback your whole career, and then move me to – hopefully I showed up and won a few pass rushes right away, and it saved me from being moved to center or something like that. But there's a handful of schools, a few Big Ten schools that – wanted me to, a lot of MAC schools as well, that wanted me to play offense, be an offensive lineman. But I don't know. I always felt more at home as a defensive lineman. I loved pass rush, loved to hit quarterbacks. So the closeness to home of it, and growing up, Purdue was not good, right? Throughout my childhood years, I actually watched like Notre Dame. I quickly realized that Notre Dame wasn't interested in me, but boom, junior, I'm trying to think what year Joe came to Purdue, but watching those back-to-back Alamo Bowls as a high schooler, I was like, man, obviously Drew's on the scene all of a sudden, and it's like this team that has been, hasn't had success in a long time in the state of Indiana is all of a sudden got a spark, and they want me to play defense, and it's 40 minutes from home. Kind of checked all the boxes, so it was an easy decision for me.
Yeah.
After all these years, how's your body?
I definitely have my share of bumps and bruises, but it's physical football. So I think any football player would tell you tell yourself you're fine and you keep playing, and then you get older. So, but I was blessed to play the game, so I'm super lucky.
Right, because that's a position obviously you played that's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
And you played it for a very long time, and you have to consider yourself fortunate. You didn't, as far as I know, you didn't come out of it with any sort of things that affect your ability to have a pretty good life, right?
Yeah, nothing. I was very lucky throughout my playing career.
Yeah.
Just bumps and bruises, and I get to see my kids grow up. So I know a lot of guys are in a lot worse shape.
Right.
When you're a freshman, freshman year, redshirt freshman year for you, but there were a lot of freshmen, first-year starters on that defense that made a heck of an impression. Of course, you guys really developed into arguably the best Purdue defense in the last 40, 50 years, but you had teammates like Sean Phillips and Gilbert Gardner and on down the line that, did the job defensively. Did the older guys, was it easy to fit in? Was there any of that razzing that went on because you guys were so young? Did Drew Brees give you a guff? How'd that work?
Yeah, it was an interesting dynamic, I think, because you had a successful group of guys, but like you said, you had, a group. I think our class we hit the ground and wanted to play, right? Like it was we don't want to wait our turn. We want to be on the field making plays. So I think there was some like guys that felt like they'd put in their time and earned it, but football is a competitive sport. So at the end of the day, you put your best 11 out there. And I think it was great from a competition standpoint. I think the older guys that were on the field realized, they're younger guys fighting for my spot. This isn't the old Purdue where, you're the guys that are here are going to play. It was every single day you're fighting for a position. So I think it drove us to be the program that we became.
What was that group like? I'd imagine coming from Lebanon, Indiana, there weren't a lot of Matt Mitriones. There weren't a lot of Nico Kudavitis running around, a lot of Stu Schweigerts. What was that group like from a personality perspective in terms of your acclimation to playing with those guys too?
Yeah, it was a wide range, like you said.
Yeah.
We had them from all corners of the country and all personalities. And I wonder, like, I would guess that that's a common situation for any kid coming out of high school, especially if you go to a smaller high school. Not, Lebanon's obviously bigger now, but that first exposure into a college locker room is, I always say it's like it's almost like life, right? You're going to take people from every ethnicity and every part of the world and every social upbringing or economic upbringing, and you're going to put them all in the same room, and you got to make something happen with that group. So it's a good eye opener as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old to walk into that and understand how life works. So, but yeah, amazing personalities, guys that are lifelong friends and guys that, I never thought I'd meet another person like that person.
Right. Let me guess on that one. No, I won't. It might start with M and end with another M. That might be one of the ones you'll never meet, like, so to speak. All right. When your head hits the pillow at night, or when you think back at your Purdue memories, is it the block kick against Wisconsin that really delivered Purdue to the Rose Bowl? Is really as much as the Morales catch. People don't quite always realize that, but you had to have them both to get there. Or what is it running on the field in Pasadena? What's in your mind's eye in terms of you looking back at some of your favorite memories, or is it something else? So you also had a touchdown later in your career too.
Yeah.
Right? So tell me about that.
The block in Wisconsin was pretty surreal. Just, a pivotal point in the game. That's every player's dream, right? Is to make an impact at the most pivotal point of the game. So, but of course, like any, good football player, I look through the plays I didn't make, and they're like, Oh, I know first series in Pasadena, I missed a sack on UW's quarterback. And that's, of course, in my mind, I make that sack, and then we go on to win that game and everything's perfect. But, it's not how it worked out. But, I think definitely, blocking the field goal, I guess with Wisconsin, that year was so magical in so many different ways. Just to have moments, multiple moments like that with Seth or with my block or the endless other plays, that we put together that year. So, it's a cool memory to remember back on.
I don't know if I'll ever see a defense at Purdue as good as you guys were in 2003. Obviously, a lot of you guys, that core broke in during the Rose Bowl year, but just what was that 03 defense like? You guys were so good. It's so hard to be number one in the country against the run at Purdue. And just what made that group, special beyond just sort of, the experience?
Right. I think it was, like I touched on earlier, we were a group of guys that were just like, fighting for it from the very beginning. Like if you want to play, you got to take it from an older guy. And the guys that did that were the same guys that were on the field in 03. So those are guys that have, you talk about putting in your 10,000 hours of work. Those were guys that were grinding at it for 4 years at college and committed to the program. And once you get that taste for success, that's something you strive for again and again and again. So I think we were just guys that had been through it together, and we realized our potential, and we had a great coaching staff, and they put us in the right position to make plays. And, I credit those guys with me even getting to even have a smell of the NFL, because there were so many playmakers on our team that NFL scouts had to look at the film, which allowed them to see me as well. So kind of helped bring me up into that.
Right.
Talk about that experience in Seattle, and obviously the opportunity to do that at that level, and you stuck around for long enough to be able to do some of those, to have a good long career and being out there. What was your takeaway from that experience?
Man, it was an awesome blessing. I was a 6th-round pick and didn't have any clue of how the NFL worked in any way. I was, felt similar to my Purdue opportunity, right? Like I didn't want to get switched to center, so I better show up and make plays.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to get cut in Seattle, so I better show up and start making plays. And I think I tried to. I remember might have been our first, one of the first like practices against the older guys at Purdue. I purposely tried to put myself out there against Matt Light, against Chucky, against guys that were established, guys that were going to play in the pros, to say, if I'm going to make a play, I want to make it against one of these starters. So I kind of took the same approach in Seattle as when we lined up for drills and stuff. I wanted to line up against Walter Jones. I wanted to line up against Steve Hutchinson. So if I beat them in that situation, it makes a coach, open their eyes, or a scout open their eyes and say, this guy could have a future. Let's keep him around for a little bit. So, and then, I kind of fell into my role and just tried to do it the best of my ability. I was, for the most part, a special teams and backup player for 7 years, and just tried to be ready at any point. When you're in the game, you take your opportunity to make a play.
Yeah.
Your other career, I thought about you the other day when the new Springsteen album came out. Are you still playing? You still playing music and stuff?
Not as much as I used to. I try to play. My girls have kind of taken over the music in the house, and they're all musical, so I think that's an even cooler thing. Is they all like to play stuff, but I try to play every now and then. They're not as interested in hearing Springsteen and Seeger, Mellencamp and stuff. They want me to try to play Frozen songs and stuff like that.
Play the Wiggles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had a band in Seattle towards the end of my playing days, and then afterwards, and that was awesome. I got a taste of, there's two hard professions: professional sports or professional music. And I'm not complaining, because both, if you succeed, you can do well in both. But
Right.
Just a hard in business as well. So I was glad it was just a fun hobby for me.
Are there? I haven't looked and done my homework here. Are there YouTube videos out there that your daughters have seen of you out on stage? I'm guessing they have.
They're out there, but I don't know that they've
Okay.
got them up yet. I don't think they're that interested in me. So I think every now and then they're like, yeah, he did something in football or something or other. My oldest daughter, especially knows more, but I'm sure though that YouTube moment will come where they see me on stage.
It's really is. It's interesting from that standpoint. Is the fact that the kids don't really care what the heck you did before. You're not the center of the universe, so that's how it works.
It is the most humbling experience you can go through in life. Yes,
no question. Ryan, we got time for one more each, but go ahead.
I was just going to reminisce about the time I came out to the old AJ Wingers to see you and your band play at Purdue, and thought you were pretty good. I remember yelling "Freebird" from the crowd, but you guys were good. You guys were really good.
Thank you.
And that was cool.
It's something I've been doing, not almost as long as football. So it was kind of a cool mirrored, life that I could lead, where, it's, that artistic expression versus, just brute force beating people up on the field. So, and, growing up, we listened to the same music. So it was, I like the big rock and roll stage experience. So thank you.
Yeah. And it could be in your future. You could always do it again, right?
Yeah. You never know. If the girls get interested in my music again, they might want to hear it.
All right. Well, Craig, thank you so much for your time. I do want to say, and I think I've told you this before, your letter that your mom sent me when you graduated is still my all-time favorite parent letter about a child. And there'll be a day that I'll share it with you. It is the best letter I've ever received about your experience. And you had some difficulties, and you had a father pass away when you were in school, and that was not easy. But that is still one of my all-time things that I have kept and keep in a file, and I pick it up every year. But Craig, we've enjoyed our relationship with you over the years, and so glad that you're doing well, which we knew you would. I mean, after all that training Brian and I gave you, I mean, how could you
paid
not?
off, guys. Paid off.
So anyway, and we appreciate it very much, and we'll do this again. So always enjoyable to have you on. We'll take a short break here and come back with segment 3 with Jay Leman. I don't know that's right. Jay was a linebacker at Illinois, and you guys did not cross paths, I don't think, in your playing days, but we'll have that for segment 3 of Gold and Black Live. Stay tuned, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes.